Sup, guys? Welcome to another episode of If Whiskey Talked. As you can see, we are shorthanded today. Today, I decided to take on the podcast myself. My co-host decided to take a break today. Sorry for being so late. Last week was a long week. I'm not necessarily busy wise, just a lot of stuff going on. Work is annoying. With a podcast that isn't very successful, you still gotta work. And so that's what I do on my spare time. Apart from the podcast, I go to work, which isn't always fun. Having to deal with managers and all that and corporate, and you know what it is when it's a corporate job and stuff. Having to follow rules, demands, just stuff like that. Gets kind of stressful sometimes and overwhelming. It was just a long week last week. But things will turn around this week. I am getting ready for vacation, which will be about 10 days or so. It's going to be a twofer, going to flying out to Chicago on Friday, being there till about Monday, and then flying back. And then the 25th on Tuesday, being my birthday, I'm going to go ahead and we're taking a road trip out to Colorado. We're going to see how that goes. And that should be fun. A lot of snow out in Colorado, and we're going to go ahead and see how that goes. So it'll be, a short week for me. I was no work today thanks to the presidents who have died before us. They went ahead and gave me a bank holiday today. So today was a free day for me. So all I had to do is get through Tuesday to Thursday, and boy, I'm out of here. But I just want to say again, I know I say this every podcast. I just want to say that I do appreciate everybody who has been tuning in. I know it's not the most exciting podcast, and I understand that. Sometimes you guys just want to see what I said and move forward. Nothing grand. So I totally understand, if you guys aren't watching the whole thing or just, not interested. I get it. Again, what I said from the beginning is that I just wanted to do a podcast just to talk, Not necessarily that I like to hear myself talk or anything like that. Just that I wanted to have a forum to speak. I wanted to be able to go ahead and speak what I wanted, say what I wanted. Definitely offend people. That's always fun. That's the only reason I have Twitter. If you're on Twitter and still taking things seriously, then care yourself, okay? But no, you guys shouldn't take anything on Twitter seriously. Some of you Twitter warriors tend to be pretty engaged and always trying to attack people. And I don't necessarily attack people on the offense, more on the defense, because I like to question what people say. And that's something that I've always done. You can ask some of my peers who aren't very intelligent. Just kidding, not. I always question anything they have to say, or I'll just say random things to spark them to say something stupid, so I can go on the contrary and attack them. So that's always fun to do. This episode, I kind of wanted to go down a certain path. Maybe talk about something interesting. But again, I don't always have a plan to get started on the podcast. Something that we were starting to discuss on a previous podcast was that of artificial intelligence, or just artificial intelligence, and that's always something that has always captured my mind, and I've always found super interesting. And now, the more research that I've done, the more podcasts and talks that I've heard, It sorry. The more I've listened and understood, it's crazy to think. It's said that we can be living in the primitive ages of what artificial intelligence is, and if you think about it, it's definitely what's going on now. It's in your pocket. It's on your computer. It's on, I don't know, on your TV. Artificial intelligence, I believe it's living within us now, and a lot of us tend to not quite think about that too much or expand on that too much and understand kind of how it's going on now. But if you think about it, artificial intelligence, what it is it's a computer being able to program itself to learn, to adapt. One thing that'll always separate, well, that's what we think now, but one thing that'll always separate a human from a machine would be a consciousness, which is something that we aren't even able to understand or quite know how it works or why it happens. It's excuse me. It's just it's something that kind of it's if you don't think about it, you think constantly. There's not a moment where you're not thinking. Even when you're asleep, you're in a state of dream, and you're still thinking. You're developing this world that you're putting yourself into while your body is resting for the night, but your mind continues to work constantly, and that's part of your conscious. Something, you think about your dreams, they can sometimes tend to relate in a non-direct way to something that might be happening in your life. And I think that I think that's pretty crazy. I think having a conscience is something that if you don't ever think about it, it's just always just there, and you don't ever realize how powerful in a way it is. Again, we don't understand where it comes from, what it is, why it is. Are we ever going to be able to recreate it with this artificial intelligence? Are we ever going to be able to reproduce a machine or give the machine the ability to create its consciousness and eventually become human-like and take over the world? But no, and back to what I was saying, us being in a primitive age of artificial intelligence now, a lot of you don't think about it, but machine learning is the basic of what artificial intelligence begins to be. If you think about, for instance, Google, you search Google and it brings this database and it searches all these things and it brings it to the forefront of your computer, and you'll be able to go from there. Google begins to learn your habits. It begins to learn it brings the whole database of anybody who's clicking and searching, brings it all together, learns what we're doing. And one of the things that they say that machines are going to have an advantage to a human race, it's its ability to always be making itself more and more efficient. And that goes to explain how Google just continuously brings better searches forward, brings searches first to, make your search a lot better. That's a machine learning, creating habits and adapting to whatever we're doing, to whatever our habits are as far as clicking and searching and all that. I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about, that you should really start thinking about. As I know some of you might not even find it interesting to think that computers one day will rule the world, as they say. Sorry, just had a steak for dinner, But that also applies to things like YouTube. YouTube has an algorithm that is basically learning your habits, learning what you like to watch, what you don't, bringing forward things that it believes are beneficial to us to know, such as things that are trending and things like that. An algorithm is something that can be primal artificial intelligence, and it's just developing itself as we speak. Every time you look up a video, it's quickly, almost in an instant, figuring out what you like and putting it in your face. And I think that's something that a lot of us don't think about, as far as how scary it can be moving forward into the future. If you think about it, say we do create these robots and beings that are not able to, well, are able to move human like, that are able to run, walk, jump, just everything a human being can do. And it creates, it continues to learn and learn and learn. And one day we decide to plug it into the internet. The minute we plug it into the internet, this artificial intelligence or being or robot or whatever you want to call it, just automatically and almost the speed of light will learn everything and anything that's on the internet, download it to itself, and become this super being, And I don't think a lot of us have ever put our mind there, which is why I wanted to do this. A robot will fill its mind with the internet so quickly that we might not even be able to react in time to stop it, to turn it off. Think about it like this. The robot downloads itself, learns the internet, everything that's out there, then in a way becomes conscious and realizes that he is now this super being, and figures out that he needs to run or unplug itself and hide, because now the humans are after to turning it off or deleting it or erasing it. But that this being becomes so smart that it either adapts, like we said, and becomes efficiently to where it realizes that it has this power and begins to act normal and doesn't portray the fact that it knows everything, that it is now more powerful than a human being, or that it becomes so smart that it figures out a way to continuously run without being able to be turned off, therefore becoming immortal. And what that kind of brings me to is, there is a movie that I don't know if any of you have ever watched it. I do recommend it. The movie Chappie was a really interesting movie. It's set, I believe it's in South Africa. It's based in South Africa. And it follows this robot that becomes aware, that becomes very intelligent, gets plugged into the internet and learns everything and all these things. And what happens towards the end of the movie is that it develops, I don't remember how it ends, but it develops a program, or there's a program developed where the guy that's taking care of him is dying. So what Chappie does is plugs in a robot and the guy's mind together and transfers his memories, his conscience, his everything into this robot, and therefore he becomes immortal. That itself is obviously something that's probably way out of the reach of our lifetime, but it is definitely something to think about. It's really interesting. It's crazy to think that maybe one day we'll all be able to get downloaded and live forever. being able to transfer our mind and our conscience into a fucking flash drive, and then being able to get uploaded into another body, an avatar. And there was actually a website. I don't know if it was real or not. And I totally forgot what it's called. It was called World 2030 or something like that. There's this Russian billionaire who had this idea, who he wanted to create this world where it was ran by avatars. And there was the webpage explained it. It went into detail and everything on how this would happen. It would be in stages. Definitely not something that would happen in an instant. And that's another thing. If artificial intelligence is going to become a superhuman, if robots are going to become superhumans, it's definitely something that we should hope happens gradually. I don't think we'd be able to cope or be able to manage something like that happening in an instant. We would probably all be obliterated completely. One analogy that I was listening to on another podcast was in regards to how super intelligent robots would see humans, how they would almost see us as an ant pile in the middle of nowhere. So, for instance, us as humans, we're building a road and we see an ant pile. We don't think twice to build over that ant pile or destroy that ant pile because the ant pile is kind of just in the way. That's how they're portraying that artificial intelligence or superhuman robots would react to the human race. They would see us as something that would just be in the way, something that they just want to go ahead and get rid of because we're useless. We would be useless to these superhumans. And to that, it's just crazy. It's so crazy to think that could be us one day, just an ant to this new human race. And going into this artificial intelligence thing kind of also ties into my idea of what the simulation theory is. I'm going to probably go ahead and take a break before I get started on that and, set myself back up, get my thoughts together, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. So, back to what I was saying. The simulation theory, in short retrospect, is basically the idea of us living in a simulation and being controlled by something that's higher than us, smarter than us, quicker than us, more innovative than us, just superior to us, basically. What this means is we'd be living in sort of this advanced digital construct that's continuously playing itself on this supercomputer somewhere out there. There's this one theorist who believes there are several levels to what the simulation theory is, and he believes we're like in level 47, 74, something like that. What this means is there's these constant levels of simulations being played out at the same time, and ours just happens to be the lowest one. What this means is that there has to be beings far more superior and intelligent than us living out other simulations, therefore making them superhuman. And there's only one place that those superhumans could exist from. That has to be some sort of artificial intelligence that became just absolutely something so powerful, so intelligent, that it created its own world and wiped out, you know, something that created them. And so this is where I take this. The superhumans created a world for themselves, completely annihilated the human race, watched us of it, and were so smart, so bored, and fed up with their own world that they created a new world. And in this new world, they created the human race again. I know it doesn't make sense, but in a way it does. They created us and put us into a simulation because maybe in a way they were sad that maybe the human race wasn't around anymore, or maybe that they were nostalgic and decided to create this world over again to replay itself over and over again, so they can look back on fond memories. And right now, what we're doing in the era that we're in is that we're recreating that artificial intelligence that is running us in the simulation, and they are trying to see how they became, where they came from. And if you think about it, we in a way have that same intuition to want to know where we came from, what's out there, who created us and stuff like that. And I get it, everybody has their own religion, everybody has their own ideas, God and all this other stuff of, our creator. And I nothing against that. I'm semi-religious myself. But it's always fun to test that, to put your mind somewhere else that it's, never thought, it's not good to always close your mind up and not think about other options or theories that can be out there in regard to what the human race is and how it became and where it's going. I think a lot of what people, honestly my generation, do is they tend to confine themselves to their lives, to their everydays. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you're happy, good, continue living the way you want to live. But what I think would help, our generation loosen up, not be these uptight, cancel culture ass people, would be to open up your mind, listen to ideas and theories and, other people's thoughts. Opinions are wrong, always. No matter if you think your opinion is wrong, it's wrong. It's always going to be wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because what that does, it just sparks conversation. And it, helps us grow our minds, helps us grow our communication. And it helps us grow together as people. And I know I went off on a tangent, but that's just something that I wanted to just kind of came to my mind. The fact that we don't communicate as much as human beings, and this kind of all ties back in to what the artificial intelligence, the simulation theory, stuff like that. We don't communicate as people anymore because we're too busy communicating on the interwebs. The phone in our pocket, in a way, in itself is a form of artificial intelligence, knowing our moves, knowing where we live, knowing what we like. It's a machine, and it's learning, and it continues to learn with every update that comes to your phone. It's learning something new, it's fixing itself, and it's growing stronger, faster, and better. And that's what all phones do. Anytime there's a new phone out, it's getting better, it's getting faster, and it's learning a lot quicker from its errors. And that itself is pretty intense. Sooner or later, these phones are going to be implemented into us, and we're going to be able to communicate to each other telepathically in a way, not even having to speak. We just call each other from our heads. no, I'm not high. I promise I'm not high. I'm not even drinking. I'm having a good old LaCroix today. Um, but it's just an idea, you know? These phones are going to be implemented into us to where we can just talk in our heads and communicate with people through our minds. That's one for you. If you want to hear that while you're high, that's fine. Go ahead. I just think it's pretty crazy to think and live out. You know, wearing Apple Watches already, or calling people without having to have the phone, something that's attached to our body. You can call somebody from your wrist. This wrist monitors your heart rate, it monitors your daily activity, and all that is being fed into a database that is going to one day be used to download into us and our immortal machine selves. Think about it. Just think about it. I think it's thinking about simulations and artificial intelligence is definitely something that I'm so sorry. Something that I think you guys should definitely read up on. Something that I think you guys should definitely look into. It's very fascinating what the simulation theory or hypothesis can do to us. For all that we know, the simulation it's just God. It's just God playing the simulation. But it's just always fun to think, what if the simulation is being played by someone that we think is God, but it's an absolutely superior being that was once a human and became so intelligent that it was able to create this world, manipulate it, move it out how it wants, and have fun with it. In a way, we're simulation, whether it's through a supercomputer or if it's through the grace of someone by the name of God. If God is controlling all of this, then aren't we in a simulation? We have no control of what's going on in our daily life. We have no control of when we die. When we're born, we're dead. That's the only thing that's promised to us, death. And there's nothing we can do about it or when it's going to happen to us. We just know it's coming. And there's only one person that knows, whether it be a group of superhumans or whether it be God. That's all we can think of. Will we ever figure out who they are? I don't know. It's definitely out of, obviously my hands. I can't even get a good degree in accounting, so it's definitely out of my hands. But maybe all these other people, Elon Musk, this guy out of MIT who I just recently learned about, who just talks about artificial intelligence over at MIT, Lex Friedman. These are the people who definitely have those answers, and not necessarily the answers, but have an idea of what's to come. Elon Musk continuously tries to warn us that artificial intelligence is something that we should not take lightly, and it is something that we should be excited about, but we should also take with caution. Talks about establishing some kind of government to rule what artificial intelligence can be used, such as we rule over weapons and trading and food, and we put these regulations and all that. He thinks that artificial intelligence is going to have something like that. And I agree, man. If it ever comes down to that, I'd fear my life. I'd give up. I'd lay down and cry. I would not be excited to see artificial intelligence form before my eyes. I'd rather it be after my times and just to be able to look back on it, maybe. So interestingly, heard this guy Lex Friedman, pretty young guy. He came up with not an idea, but he came with a thought that what if he was referring to the idea of consciousness, and if it could ever be created or anything. He brought up this really good thought on the fact that we might be creating it as we speak, and we just don't really understand it, and that's why we don't see it that way. But the fact that we're able to reproduce and birth a child, is this child will grow up to go ahead and create its own conscious. It'll create its own habits. It'll create its own ideas, its own thoughts. And what if, in a way, that's us creating this consciousness and a form of artificial intelligence? You know, it's definitely a reach, but it is something we could take with us. Babies are artificial intelligence. You heard it here first. These babies will grow up to create their own conscious. They will learn the mechanics of being a human. They will learn everything that's out there, especially with kids nowadays. I just thought about this in my head myself. I just came to a revelation. Kids nowadays are basically coming out of the womb with an iPad in their hands. So think about that. These kids are coming out into this era of technology where it's quickly advancing, and as soon as they're able to push a button, we're handing them these electronics. These electronics are being embedded into their minds, and they're learning nothing else but these electronics. And that's a pretty crazy world to go down to. They're gonna grow up in this era of electronics. They're gonna be able to, adapt to what these electronics are helping us do. Everything nowadays is just smart everything. Smart watch, smart TV, smart phone, smart fridge, smart laundry, washer and dryer. All that is a form of artificial intelligence that's being embedded into our everyday lives, and it's just going to continue to grow from here, and there's no stopping it. It's, as Elon Musk said, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen, and there's nothing we can do to stop it at this point. Once we get a grasp of what artificial intelligence can do, being the humans that we are, we're gonna do our best to continuously make it better. We're gonna want to see the end of what this is gonna be, and what it's gonna be the end of the human race. To me, that's plain and simple. We're all gonna get murdered by machines. Believe it or not, that's how we go. Everybody thinks it's gonna be something else, meteor, whatever. Machines are gonna kill us all, and that's it. If we don't become slaves, we're gonna die, and there's no other way. Which, speaking of the end of the world, we're on day 4,556 of the coronavirus, and if you're listening to this, congratulations, you're still alive. You're not contagious. You are not hosting the coronavirus, and I applaud you for making it this far. I applaud you to making this far in a podcast. I do definitely congratulate you on not having the coronavirus and still being alive. Man, that coronavirus, it's something that, a lot of us kind of are brushing under the rug, but you guys should definitely not take it lightly. You guys should definitely still keep an eye on it every day, kind of just read up on it. It's scary, man. It's an epidemic, and it's killing people, and it can be, it can be worse than definitely what we think. There's no way that it's just what they say on the news. It has to be worse than that. they have to make it to a point where we're not gonna panic. Recently, they decided to fly into a San Antonio base a bunch of people who were on a cruise ship who were infected and have them in quarantine in San Antonio, and that's down the street, bro. That's down the street. And you know what? I ain't trying to die. I'm trying to live my life. So it's definitely good to keep up with it. I don't know, man. Should we panic? I think we should panic and just fucking throw a party, once we survive. Because, I feel like, I'm sorry, you guys are probably going to think that I'm an idiot and are going to come at me for making fun of this and making it a joke. But again, my podcast, don't care. No, but in all seriousness, you should definitely, they recently renamed it to the COVID-19. And if you Google it, under the name, it says SOS alert. That means you're going to die. Definitely means we're going to die. I've recently came across some Twitter videos of these dudes dressed up in sanitary uniforms walking around streets of China, I'm guessing, with guns. A lot of videos have surfaced where people are being carried out of their homes in body bags, and it seems like it's just every day, and it's constantly all day, every day. One other disturbing thing that I saw is that the fact that in China they're actually killing dogs, they're beating them to death, which is really sad. I came across a video and I saw it, and it's pretty sad that these people are carrying dogs out of their apartments and having them murdered because they think they are the reason for coronavirus being spread around, which is pretty crazy because I saw the shot records for one of the puppies that I have, and one of the shots is the coronavirus shot. But I didn't think too much of it. Being an animal, you would think, it'd be prone to things like a disease like that. So, it's really sad to see that, they're killing these dogs, with no proven reason or anything. And I get it, at this point, it's just an absolutely, ultimate measure, to go ahead and keep everything as sanitary as possible. But it's kind of sad. It's kind of fucked up to see. And you guys, we've made it to almost 40 minutes of this episode. Some dumbass the other day tweeted at me and said, "Bro, we don't watch those vlogs." Like, bitch, what vlog? It's a podcast. It's stupid. Don't be an idiot. And I tell him, you know what, dude? You're right. You can tell you don't listen to podcasts. Why? Yes, I'm going back to what I was speaking about the other day. This person who decides to wake up every morning and just think about getting drunk, think about partying, because what else are you going to think about, right? Dude, I don't understand why people are like that. It's so annoying. Like, first of all, educate yourself on what you're going to come at me for, and then we can communicate. Then we can discuss. I don't argue. I discuss with people. Why? Because arguing arguing implies that I'm angry. I don't get angry at people, bro. You say something to me, I'm gonna say something back. You're not gonna piss me off. You're not gonna make me mad. I don't give a fuck what you think. And that's me. That's who I am. And maybe next episode I'll go in and get into who I am, how I feel about the world, how I feel about people, if you haven't gotten it by now. But I think I might try to have a host. Actually, sorry. This weekend I'm gonna be flying to Chicago. Definitely no episode this week. We might take our setup to Colorado for next week. We'll definitely keep you up on that through Twitter. I want to thank you guys for joining me again on this episode 5 of If Whiskey Talked. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Go ahead and like this episode and follow us on Twitter at Whiskey Talked. If you have any questions, any ideas, I'm free to take any kind of ideas from anybody. We're learning. We're going to grow together. If you're watching this episode and want to be on, have something to talk about, hit me up, man. Email me at ifwhiskeytalked@gmail.com. I'll definitely look into that. Like I said on Twitter, I want this to be something of a platform for not just myself, but for everybody out there who has something to say, who wants to talk about something, who has ideas. Just anything, dude. If you want to have a conversation, come on here. Let's talk. Let's have a drink, and we'll get the conversation flowing. I want to meet new people. I want to talk to new people. I want this to be a podcast that people can listen to and relate to in a way, any episode. It's an everyday kind of thing. It's people out there who are working real jobs, who are dealing with real issues. I want to have you guys on here, and I want to hear you guys talk. I want to learn. I want to, share ideas. I just want to collaborate, bro. Let's collab. But definitely want to thank you guys. Like I said, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, send me emails, questions, ideas, and then we'll definitely go ahead and roll with the punches. Really appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next time.